Personalizing. How often do we go through life taking things personal? Taking things maybe people say to us personally, getting cut off in traffic, and we take it personally and we get upset about the person or of the with the person who cut us off, even though we don't know them and we don't even know what their intentions were. We take we tend to take a lot of things personal. And whenever I started learning the meta model, which, by the way, if you are a practitioner at this very moment in NLP, I highly, highly recommend that you spend a lot of time on the meta model really learning it. If you are a master practitioner, or if you've gone through a master practitioner class and you feel like you don't know the meta model very well, I can't recommend enough that you go back and you really spend time with that model. It is really what NLP is all about. It lays the foundation. It uses language as the vehicle, but it really is in so many ways the foundation of NLP. And it is a very solid, very clean model. And the distortion, generalization, deletion, I mean, that's what NLP is really all about. So highly recommend that you go back and really learn that. If you've visited the expanded meta model that Michael Hall expanded, and you can see some of that, or you'll see that expanded meta model in this book, The User's Manual for the Brain, but he also has written a book on specifically the meta model. He went back to some of the transformational grammar that the meta model used terms from to sort of define the different language patterns. He went back to those guys and studied them, like Krzyzewski, and found some more patterns. And personalization is another pattern that he came up with. And I think it's a really important one, and I'm really glad he added it to the meta model, or expanded it and included it in the meta model, because so often we do this. We're emotional beings, and we can experience emotional spikes, and there is no necessarily real reason for that, or we look to gather information from our emotions, when really that's the worst place to try to gather information. Our emotions don't tell us a whole lot about what's really going on around us. It's not to say that emotions aren't important. They are definitely important, and they do tell us certain things. But what they don't tell us is necessarily the intentions of other people or acts of nature. You know, if rain ruins your day, and I know people who think like this, and I know I have thought this, I used to think this, that there's something like some sort of universe or fate that's acting against us, that, wanted to get in the way of us, having some sort of great day or something like that. That's all forms of personalization. And sometimes people do actually say things to us so that we will take it personally, and so that we will hurt personally. And we still don't have to take that personally. Even though that's their intent, that's not going to do us any good. Now, what they might be doing is they might be giving us feedback. Now, that can be useful. So when you depersonalize things that people tell you, acts of nature, or even acts that other people commit, especially if they had nothing to do with you, when we personalize, we make that about us, and that's a form of being egocentric. So when we take that personalization part out of it, it's really difficult to get stuck, because you're not fortifying yourself as being, this is about me, or these things are happening because of me. It's more, these are the responses or the feedback you're getting, and so all you do is you just alter what you're doing, you alter your actions or alter your behavior to change the feedback or get the responses you want. What I found most useful for me was depersonalizing failure and depersonalizing success. Now, when people fail, a lot of times they'll say, oh, I'm a bad person, or I'm not good at this, I'm terrible with money, I'm terrible at business. These are all forms of personalization, and they really don't do us any good. Instead, we could look at that as just feedback and say, okay, so that didn't work out. What do I need to do differently? So instead of becoming this thing, or you're attaching it to your self-concept, you now become more of a process of behaviors and process of actions. And the responses that you don't like, or what you would call failure, which isn't really a failure, and again, if you know your meta model, that is a nominalization. So instead of it being, you this one being who is as bad at this thing, and you can't be any better, and therefore you're hopeless and helpless. Now, if you depersonalize failure, this is just your behavior, these are your actions. They're not getting the result you want. That's feedback, not failure. And all I have to do is alter my behavior, alter my actions. I don't have to go and say this is all about me. I don't have to say I'm a bad person or I'm not good at this. Just alter the behavior, alter the actions, and keep doing that until you get the feedback or the response that you want. Now, it might be counterintuitive to depersonalize success, but if you do this, you're going to take a lot of limitations off of you. So think about when you've succeeded in life. And it's hard not to personalize it, I know, but it's a pitfall. So if I personalize success and I'm experiencing this success and I say, oh, this is about me, rather than this is about the behaviors or the actions I was doing, then it's more like I can't do any wrong. It's about me. Whatever actions and behaviors come out of me is going to end up in success, and we know that's not true. And just hearing myself say that sounds ridiculous, but a lot of times we do that. So again, it is about your actions and about your behaviors, not about who you are. And who you are, that's conceptual anyway. I mean, who you really are, we can never put into words. We can never, even as well defined and clear as your thoughts are about who you are, those thoughts are not who you are. So when it comes to success, you may be engaging in certain behaviors and actions, and in that particular environment, and for whatever other factors are going on, that creates a success. And as long as you're looking at it as a process of action and feedback, you will keep making the adjustments and continuing to be successful. And if you ever get the response back that you don't want, instead of calling it failure, you just keep adjusting. We tend to want to find something that is always going to work, always succeed. We tend to want that type of comfort and security. And most of the time that just doesn't exist. So when it comes to success, just know that right at that moment, those processes or those actions, what all success is just feedback to the processes and actions as they're connecting with your external circumstances at that time. And that could change. So when that changes, you need to be flexible and change that. Personalizing success makes us inflexible because we think it's about us, not about the actions or the behaviors that we're doing. So check out the meta model. It never hurts to revisit the meta model. I do it often. And check out the expanded meta model, and especially personalization. The great thing about personalization, you start to see where that concept starts to spread out into other philosophies like non-duality and even Stoicism. And Stoicism was about accepting your emotions but not using them to make logical decisions, or not using them to make or to look for information. And I find it fascinating when NLP sort of overlaps with other philosophies. And it's by no mistake. And you will see these patterns over and over in life. So check out your meta model, practice it. Feel free to send us questions at nlp-gym.com. I'd be happy to answer them. I get when people do get really interested in the meta model, they have a lot of questions. I know I had a lot of questions and still do sometimes. I know Dr. Hall, and I always enjoy asking him questions, especially about language. So check out nlp-gym.com. If you have questions, please send them to us, and I will respond to them.